I used to believe jealousy was something people outgrew, that once we hit our 20s, we all just figured out who we were, found our lanes, and stayed in them. I was dead wrong. My sister Reagan has been competing with me since we were little girls, but I never thought much of it. We're only 14 months apart, Irish twins, as my mom liked to joke, and growing up, we shared everything. Clothes, friends, secrets. I thought that made us close. But over the last year, I've realized she wasn't sharing. She was studying me. She always wanted what I had. If I joined soccer, suddenly she was trying out too. If I got a job at the local diner, she applied a week later. When I got accepted to a journalism program out of state, she switched her major to communications and followed me a semester later. It was weird, but I chalked it up to sisterly admiration. Then she took my boyfriend, and that's when everything started unraveling. I met Mason during my junior year. He was smart, thoughtful, and had this calmness about him that made me feel grounded. We were inseparable for almost 2 years. Everyone called us solid, the couple that would make it. Reagan liked him from the beginning. She made that very clear. At first, I thought she was just being friendly, complimenting his haircut, asking him for help with her car, tagging along when we went out with friends. It didn't feel threatening. Reagan was flirty with everyone, and Mason never acted like he noticed. But one night, after a small get-together at our apartment, I walked back into the living room and caught the tail end of something that didn't sit right. Reagan was sitting way too close to him on the couch. Her hand brushed his arm, and she laughed, that fake, too loud laugh she uses when she wants attention. Mason looked uncomfortable. I said nothing. I should have said something. 6 months later, Mason broke up with me. He told me he wasn't sure who he was anymore and needed space. No one else was involved, or so he claimed. A week after that, Reagan stopped answering my calls. And 2 weeks after that, she posted a photo on Instagram. Her and Mason standing on a hiking trail with matching smiles and matching North Face jackets. The caption read, "You find love when you stop looking." My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen for a full minute before I could even process it. I called her, straight to voicemail, texted, nothing. She didn't respond until 3 days later with a single line. "I didn't steal him. He came to me." That was her justification. That's all she had to say. My friends were furious. My mom, bless her, tried to stay neutral, but even she couldn't hide her disappointment. Reagan told her I had given up on Mason and that feelings just happen. She moved in with him a month later. I wish I could say that was the worst of it. But Reagan wasn't done. See, I had just landed a dream internship at the Denver Tribune. It wasn't flashy, but it was the foot in the door I'd been working toward since I wrote my first article at 16. I had a mentor there, Lauren, who took me under her wing and believed in me. Until Reagan showed up. I had mentioned the internship in passing during one of the last phone calls we had before everything blew up. I didn't think much of it. Why would I? She was supposedly planning to move to Oregon with Mason for his new job. Then, out of nowhere, she applied for a full-time assistant position in the same department. She used my connections, my name. She even mentioned my articles in her cover letter. I only found out because Lauren pulled me aside and asked if I knew a Reagan Murphy, said she was surprisingly qualified and had great energy. I froze. She got the job. And just like that, my internship was cut short. Budget reshuffle, they said. Timing didn't line up, they said. I wasn't even mad at the paper. They didn't know they were being played. But Reagan knew. She knew exactly what she was doing. And the worst part? She acted like she earned it. I didn't confront her right away. Part of me was still hoping this was just a coincidence, that maybe Reagan didn't realize what she was doing, or that she'd at least feel guilty once she saw how it affected me. But when I ran into her at a networking event a few weeks later, one I used to attend with my press badge before my internship mysteriously wrapped early, she walked right up to me like nothing had happened. Worse, she smiled. "Hey, stranger," she said, holding a glass of white wine like she was at a backyard barbecue, not the industry mixer where she'd slid into my world wearing my skin. "You look great. Still writing?" Still writing. That hit me harder than I expected. I mumbled something about freelancing and tried to walk away, but she followed me, going on about how much she loved her new job, how welcoming everyone was, how we should catch up soon. She didn't flinch when I stared at her in silence. She had zero shame. It wasn't just that she took the job. It was the ease with which she stepped into the life I had been building, like it was an outfit I'd left hanging in my closet, and she decided looked better on her. When we were kids, Reagan was always louder, flashier, more popular. I was the quiet one, the planner, the one who did her homework 3 days early, the one who stayed up late editing the school newspaper while Reagan went to parties I wasn't invited to. But I never envied her. I liked who I was. I worked hard for everything I had, and I believed, maybe naively, that people would see that and respect it. Instead, Reagan made me feel like being myself wasn't enough. She didn't just want to win, she wanted to win over me. I started noticing patterns. She wasn't just mimicking me, she was actively trying to one-up me. When I wrote an op-ed that got picked up by a local blog, she submitted something to the Tribune under a different name and got it published. When I posted about a side gig editing a book manuscript, she posted the next day about exploring creative nonfiction and tagged the author of a book she'd never read. It was like she had a checklist. Steal boyfriend, take job outshine in writing. The final straw was my birthday, or rather, her announcement on my birthday. October 14th, I had just finished dinner with a few close friends when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and felt my face go cold. A photo of Reagan and Mason, smiling again, with a shiny ring on her hand. He proposed. I said yes. Posted at 7:48 p.m., right in the middle of my celebration. She had never forgotten my birthday growing up. She knew what she was doing. She was letting the world know. She won. I went home and cried for hours. Not because I wanted Mason back, I didn't, but because I finally understood what I was dealing with. This wasn't about love, or ambition, or accidents. This was methodical. Reagan had been slowly peeling my life apart and stitching it onto herself. And all the while, acting like it was just fate, like I was the crazy one for noticing. My mom called the next day, said she was shocked that Reagan hadn't told anyone in the family ahead of time. "She always looked up to you," Mom said. "Maybe she's just following in your footsteps?" But this wasn't following. This was stepping on them. I wanted to disappear, move cities, change careers. But part of me refused to give her that win. So I did the only thing I could. I decided to take my life back. Not the pieces she stole. She could keep those for now. I'd build something better. But first, I had to find out just how far she'd gone. And what I found next almost made me sick. It started with a LinkedIn notification. I was up late one night applying to a few freelance gigs when I saw the alert. Reagan Murphy has updated her profile. Out of spite or curiosity, or some combination of both, I clicked on it. She had listed herself as an associate features editor at the Denver Tribune. That wasn't the job she got hired for. She started as an assistant. I knew because it had been my assistant role before she wormed her way in. That job didn't come with editorial control or bylines, let alone a title like associate features editor. That kind of jump would usually take years, or at the very least, a major portfolio. But there it was. Public, bold. I scrolled through the rest of her profile and noticed something else. Under notable projects, she'd listed 2 of my pieces. Word for word. No byline credit, no collaboration mention. Just pasted into her portfolio like she'd written them herself. One of them was the article that got me the internship in the first place, a long-form piece on housing inequality that I'd worked on for 3 months. She had no part in it. 0. But there it was, labeled as lead writer. It felt like a punch in the throat. I sent an email to Lauren, my former mentor. I didn't accuse, not outright. I just asked if Reagan had worked on those articles. I knew the answer, but I needed it in writing. Lauren replied the next morning, "No, she wasn't involved in those projects." Why? I stared at the screen for a long time. I wanted to scream. I wanted to print Reagan's lies out and plaster them across every wall in the Tribune's office. I wanted someone, anyone, to see what she was doing. But even if I did expose her, what then? Would people believe me? Or would they just chalk it up to sister drama? Another messy family feud with no real villains, just 2 jealous women fighting over attention? That's the thing about people like Reagan. They're charming. They're careful. They don't show their claws in public. But they always, always leave a trail. So I started collecting it. Every resume she padded with my work. Every instance of her passing off something I'd done as her own. I even reached out to a former classmate who told me, casually, that Reagan had submitted my thesis article as her portfolio piece when she applied to another outlet. She had downloaded it from the school archive and swapped out the name. She was building a whole career on a foundation of my stolen words. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was professional fraud. Still, I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to be that girl, the one who tears down her own sister, even if her sister had done everything in her power to wreck her life. I kept telling myself, you'll seem bitter, you'll seem petty. But the truth is, silence wasn't grace. It was enabling. Reagan had bet on me staying quiet. She was counting on me being the good girl, the peacemaker, the one who forgave and moved on while she kept taking. I wasn't going to be that girl anymore. The day I filed the formal complaint with the Tribune's HR department, my hands were shaking. I included a portfolio of proof, time-stamped files, emails, original drafts, even screenshots of our old Google Docs with my author tags. It wasn't vindictive, it was clinical, clean. A week passed with no response. Then 2. I started to wonder if they were ignoring it, if maybe Reagan had already weaseled her way deep enough into their trust that my words wouldn't matter. Then I got the call, not from HR, from Reagan. She was furious. "You set me up," she snapped the second I answered. "I looked up to you. Everything I did because I wanted to be you. You should be flattered." That sentence will haunt me for the rest of my life because it was so honest, not apologetic, not ashamed, just entitled. Like my life had been a showroom and she was entitled to try on whatever she wanted. "I didn't set you up," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "You did this to yourself." Then I hung up. The fallout was quiet, at least publicly. Reagan's promotion was reversed. Her name was quietly pulled from the masthead. A new job posting went up the following month for a junior assistant. No public scandal, no press release. The Tribune didn't want drama, just distance. But people noticed. Friends, family, Mason. And for the first time in years, Reagan stopped posting. She disappeared from social media. And I finally breathed. When the dust settled, I thought I'd feel victorious. I didn't. There was no parade, no grand moment where the world clapped and told me I'd done the right thing. Just silence, a strange, heavy kind. Like after a long storm, when everything's still wet and ruined, and you're not sure where to start cleaning up. I had spent so long reacting to Reagan's moves, defending, dodging, trying to hold on to pieces of myself she kept carving away, that I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. Mason didn't reach out. Not really. He sent me a one-line text the week after the HR fallout. "Didn't know it was like that. Sorry." That was it. I never replied. The truth is, I didn't blame him anymore. Not fully. He was just a part of the ecosystem Reagan manipulated, a symptom. And maybe he did love her now, in whatever twisted, codependent way that kind of relationship can exist. That was their problem now. I finally blocked them both, not out of spite, but because healing needs space. And I was long overdue for mine. It took me a few months to find my footing again. I started freelancing under a pen name. Nothing fancy, just small human interest stories, the kind I used to love writing before everything became a battleground. I stopped trying to get into the right rooms and just focused on writing what felt honest. People started noticing. One piece I wrote about a retired schoolteacher who ran a food pantry during the winter got picked up by a regional site, then a national one. It didn't go viral, but it mattered. Readers emailed me. They connected. And for the first time in a long time, I remembered why I started writing at all. Not to be seen, but to see. My mom and I finally talked about everything a few months later. Really talked. She admitted she had seen it happening. The patterns, the mimicking, the slow erosion of boundaries, but didn't know how to stop it. I thought she'd grow out of it, she said quietly over coffee one morning. I thought maybe if she just caught up to you, she'd finally stop chasing you. But Reagan didn't want to catch up. She wanted to replace me. We haven't spoken since that last phone call, not even on holidays. And yeah, there are days that still hurts, because no matter how justified I was, part of me still grieves the idea of what a sister should be, what we could have had if she hadn't seen me as competition. But here's the truth I finally made peace with. Family doesn't give you a free pass to sabotage someone's life. Blood doesn't make betrayal hurt less. It just makes it cut deeper. A year after the fallout, I accepted a full-time offer at a new digital publication based out of Portland. They liked my voice. They didn't care about where I went to school or what internships I'd had. They just liked my work, my actual work. I moved cities, rented a little apartment with too much light and not enough outlets. I adopted a senior rescue dog named Henry who snores like a chainsaw. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged in my own story again. Not the supporting character, not the stolen blueprint, the author. Sometimes I still think about Reagan. I wonder if she ever looks back and realizes what she threw away. If she scrolls through old photos or opens an empty document and hears my voice in her head, the way I used to help her outline essays when she got stuck. But I don't wait for an apology anymore, because closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you build, slowly, brick by brick, after someone's burned down what you thought was home. And I'm building mine.